Welcome to Chico Steak Life Sketches. My name is Jerry Crosby, and I'm excited to be introducing you today to Weldon Papa. He's a former baseball player, and now he is enjoying cultivating his children and working in the Sacramento Temple. Good to have you here, Brother Papa.
Thank you, Sister Crosby.
So, I know that you have a deep respect for your parents. We have talked about that. And can you tell me a little bit about them?
Oh, my beautiful parents. You know, today just happens to be my mother, Leona Bartlett's birthday. 104 years ago, she was born to her parents, Louis and Jenny. My incredible parents, and they met each other on my dad's mission in Michigan when he and his companion taught my mother's family. And of course, the family accepted the gospel and were baptized. My dad baptized my mother in a swimming pool. Following the mission, he felt strongly about her and rang her on the telephone. She happened to be a phone operator back in Michigan and was on the line with him, and he asked her to marry him. Her answer was, "You'll have to come back here and find out." So anyway, they went back and they ended up marrying on December 19th, just a few days after Pearl Harbor occurred.
Wow.
So they knew he was on his way to conflict, and so they were married in Salt Lake. And they delayed creating a family until they made sure Dad was coming home. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, he did. And so after the war, came home, and then the family started.
And did they settle here in California, or were they someplace else?
Dad is a Northern Californian. He was born in Marysville. He was a pole climber for PG&E and later became involved in customer service and project design. And Mother was a farm girl, an incredible, frugal money manager for our family, could sew anything and prepare anything to eat that you needed. And so together, they brought 4 of us boys into the world, and they raised us in the most incredible environment in the shadow of the Buttes, the Sutter Buttes, about 4.5 miles out of town. We had some milk.
Now, was that still in Marysville?
It's in Sutter County between Yuba City and the Buttes.
Okay.
So it's out in the country, orchard country. So we had some milk cows and calves and chickens and turkeys, and we milked by hand in those days, and even had a pig once. So we lived there, and they raised us in an incredible environment for boys to just romp and run and bike and learn how to work hard.
And so it was just 4 boys, you had no sisters?
4 boys. My poor mother had no daughters to raise until marriage came along.
And is this where baseball came into your life?
Well, my father's father played semi-pro ball, and my dad loved it, and so that got passed on. We did many other things, but that just happened to be our favorite.
And you shared that was the only reason you did the piano?
My parents made sure that I became somewhat of a well-rounded personality and wanted me to have music. My dad had music, and his sister had music thanks to his mother. So, yeah, there was a little bit of coercion. If you expect to go out and play ball, then you practice.
And do you still play the piano at all today?
I can play most all the hymns thanks to that.
Very nice.
Thanks to that encouragement, and I'm grateful for that as well. But I'm very rusty, and it takes me quite a while to warm up my brain and my fingers. But I can do it with some practice.
Is there anything else that kind of stands out in your mind from your childhood and how your parents created this loving home for you?
Well, they believed in family home evening right from the get-go, took it very seriously, and practiced it. And other standards that had to do with the gospel, doing things with us in the church, really mattered. I have vivid memories of kneeling around the meal tables before our meals and praying. You know, I can hear some of the words that my parents used to use, and so that had a way of just knowing that we were connected with them and with heaven. I remember on my mission much later when things got very difficult as a young man over there, I could every once in a while, a bit of a memory would pop up in my head of them kneeling around the table, praying for me
Oh,
on my
that's
mission.
wonderful.
So it was a wonderful blessing. Yeah, they're such incredible people, wonderful parents in every way. I deem it just a tremendous blessing to be born to Julius and Leona.
To goodly parents.
Indeed.
And living on a farm, was that particularly helpful in building your character?
Oh, it certainly was. Yeah, it wasn't a large farm. We just had enough to. I mentioned those few animals, and we had some fruit trees and nut trees, and there are always chores to do.
Mm-hmm.
Our first television came, I think, in 1955. So before then, we created our entertainment outside doing things. Yeah. Always some chores to do, and working for neighboring ranchers. I remember picking prunes to earn school clothes for 25 cents for a lug box, picking them off the tree. And then I remember picking them off the ground. And then later we worked in other almond harvests and peach harvests and fruit harvests. In those days, as a high school student, the farmers, I guess, weren't quite so concerned about litigation and suits, and so they would take a risk and hire us undriver's licensed kids, put us on tractors and forklifts and eventually trucks. I was very grateful for the so-called small ranch life that gave me a chance to do all those kinds of things.
Yep. I don't think any of us waited till we were 16 to drive.
That's true. That's true. Especially out where we lived. I have repented of a few of those things and confessed a few of those things with my father and mother.
And you said you loved sports. Did you play any sports in high school, or was that a part of your life?
Yeah, football and basketball and soccer. And I discovered tennis too late, though. Would love to have learned to play tennis better. But it was always baseball in one form or another. Team efforts were just great.
And did any of that carry on to college, or was kind of high school the pinnacle?
High school was the end. I was a decent student, but I recognized early that if I was going to perform and compete with others, I needed to fully concentrate on my academics. So I left that behind. And then it was local softball from then on. And I probably played that a little bit too long.
Oh, but it's fun.
It was. Then finally very late, about 11 o'clock one night, while my little family was home, married by then with children, I came in from playing the infield and sat on the bench ready to prepare to hit. And a message just went, "What are you doing here?" Just like that. What are you doing here? So I took that seriously, decided, you know what? It's been long enough. It's been a great experience. You need to hang up those cleats and be more of a dad at home late at night.
Spend more time with your children.
Yeah. It was fun for all it lasted.
Let's take one step back. You went to college and on a mission. So how did that evolve for you?
Oh, very good. Yeah. Well, we were raised down there in northwest of Yuba City, and then eventually my father took a position in Oroville, and our family moved to Oroville. And that was my senior year. I began to become a little bit wiser, a little bit more careful about my choices, and a little more serious about life and about the gospel. Paid more attention in seminary, received my patriarchal blessing from Brother Cliff Jensen of the Gridley Stake, and just opened my eyes to a better future. Received a mission call to go to the British South Mission in 1965 through 67. And as a consequence of that, I made an in-depth study of the prophet Joseph's life so I could teach about him, and became, I think at that point, really converted. My love for the Savior took on new meaning and became real and deep. I remember as a senior officiating at the sacrament table, feeling something deep inside that I'd never felt before as a result of some of those studies, reading the Book of Mormon, and just came to love him. But my feelings of inadequacy as the ability to go and present the gospel were horrible. I mean, I felt handicapped. But I knew who I was going to serve and just trusted that if I did my best, I could. As a kid, I had a speech impediment. Didn't even want to answer the telephone. But trying my best and having faith in the Lord, things became easier. And so sharing the gospel took on everything, full purpose for a couple of years. It was a wonderful experience in Britain, the British South Mission. Yeah, it was a life-changing experience.
That's where I was born, so it's got to be a good
really?
place.
Yeah. So you knew about riding your bike on the left side of the road?
I lived there for 6 weeks before we left. So I don't have any memories.
I had to learn the hard way about that. I nearly had some head-on collisions on my bike.
Yes.
And roundabouts are easy here in America now because of that old experience. And
Yep.
loved the people, loved the experience, and now love sharing the gospel with anybody without any reservation.
That is wonderful. That's a great gift.
Grateful for it.
And so you came back from your mission. You went to college. Where did you end up going to college?
Yeah. It took me a little while to decide what I want to do for a profession, as it does for a lot of us. So I went to then Rick's College for one semester. It was just the best. It was just a tremendous experience back there. But economically, I figured I could get what I needed in the end, and so I came home, went to school. Anyway, I finished my preparations at Cal State Chico here and became a teacher. I looked at architecture. I looked at veterinary medicine, actually, too. Loved animals and took a look at forestry. But the mission, I think, convinced me that people were pretty important. And I was always attracted to getting to know people better. So that's the direction I went, and was fortunate enough to be invited to teach school in Willows in 1972.
And what did you teach?
I taught elementary school, third, then fourth, then fifth grade, and then I became a principal the rest of the 31 years, K-8 again. I signed my first teaching contract for the whole amount of $13,800. It was so small that I figured that I'd better take it all in 9 months, being sure that I could find summer work on some ranches for the other 3. That later became a real test for me.
Wow.
But that was incredible, to be responsible for 30, 31, 32 children in the classroom every day. It's just terrific experience. Teachers, good teachers, are not compensated sufficiently for what they do.
As a former teacher, I agree with that.
Oh, okay. You know.
Yeah. So had you already met your lovely wife, Marie, by then?
Oh, thank you. Yes. I came home from Rexburg and was conducting a mutual, what is now mutual opening exercises. Remembering my patriarchal blessing told me, Brother Weldon, you will meet your future eternal companion among the women of the church. So I was looking at this congregation that I'd seen all the time, and there was a different face, and the face radiated and really got my attention. And so I made sure to find her later in one of the classrooms and asked her permission. Marie Fairbanks then. Yeah, and what a gem she is. And I get a little tight in the throat thinking of all that she means to me. Her parents and family lived in Paradise, the Fairbanks family, so the more time I spent with her and with her family convinced me she's the one. So,
and was it a long courtship or a short courtship?
Yeah, we did a lot of things together in the church and in the community for just over a year, and then we decided it was right for us. And we were probably formally engaged for about a month.
And then were you guys married in the Oakland Temple?
The Oakland Temple. January 25, 1969.
That
and the
is
sealer's name was
wonderful.
Brother Winter. I can remember this kind and wonderful gentleman. Yeah.
And now you get to serve that same favor for other people to be their sealers.
Yes, humbly. What an incredible opportunity to officiate in the formulation of eternal families. Yeah.
And you touched upon the fact that as a young teacher, and they don't make good money, and you were worried about supporting your family, were there any kind of struggles that you and Marie faced that were particularly difficult?
Oh, sure. We had our family stacked together in a little tiny house with bunk beds made out of scrap lumber that we could find here and there. I mentioned earlier that I was doing ranch work in order to make it through the summer. One summer, I think it was 1976, there was a severe drought in Northern California. My ranch work was dry land farming wheat and sheep in the Coast Range. And the wheat crop was next to nothing. And it came time to harvest. We did start harvesting, but there were patches of wheat on the fields, and then there was nothing. And my employer just sadly brought me in. He was a good man, and said, "I'm sorry, there's just nothing here for us to harvest. You sure I'm going to have to let you go?" So I remember going home and presenting the situation to my little family around our little kitchen table and saying, "There's no money for 3 months."
Wow.
And we didn't have any savings then. So that was the pressure was really on. I was extremely concerned about all the necessities. I thought, well, maybe my family, maybe church welfare. And as we were speaking, the phone rang just beside my head on the wall, and there was another wheat farmer that had a crop because he could irrigate his crop. Somehow the word got to him that I wasn't going to be working for Don Otterson that summer, and he offered me a job. So that was a real test, I think, of our faith, and I attribute it to faithfully paying our tithes and offerings as little as we had. So it does not matter whether we pay 10 cents, 15 cents, as long as it's a full tithing. So that was a real trial for us. Vietnam was a real scary anticipation to be a newlywed. And believing that I was involved over there. I was healthy, was able to go. I just knew I was on my way. But went through the draft, joined that herd of cattle going through in your underpants and doing this and doing that. And I remember I remember sitting in the classroom where they have an assessment for your abilities, and looking around me and seeing the people who were there, and I thought, oh boy, I'm in big trouble. If these guys and I are in a trench or in a field someplace, I'm in big trouble. There's marijuana on the bus down there. I just knew it was a messy thing. So the last interview that I went, or the last test that I went through was an interview with a psychologist, and he said, "Looks like you're a great candidate to go. Are you ready?" And sadly, I can't think of anything. I sure wish I could, unless it's my back. Tell me about your back. I did. As a football injury in high school, I did have a lot of back pain, and that was a real trial for us, even as young marrieds. And I thought I was going to have a hard time, all my life. So he said, "Go see your orthopedic man and have him get in touch with me," which I did. And as I was waiting for the x-rays to be developed, the doctor yelled from the other room, "You're not going anywhere." Thank heavens for an old injury that caused a great deal of discomfort and pain for a number of years. Paid off.
It is interesting how something we think is a trial can actually end up being a blessing if we're just patient with the Lord.
I really thought I was going to have some hardship all my life. But that spinal condition fused together, and I can experience some pain once in a while, but I can live and work comfortably now, and I didn't have to go and take anyone's life and run for my own life.
Yeah, that is a incredibly difficult job that our military does. It's amazing that they have the stalwart characteristics that they have. They really are honorable people.
So both of us were very grateful that I was spared that awful experience. And I'm
Amen.
grateful for those who do go to serve
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Now, you talked about how at the farm time during the drought, how you were worried about your little family. But I don't know that we can call your family little. You want to tell us a little bit about how many
Oh, my
children you
goodness.
have?
We have 3 wonderful daughters and 3 wonderful sons.
And did they come in that order, or were they all mixed up?
2 daughters first, then 3 sons, then a little daughter at the end. And that brings to mind a neat little experience. The 5 had been born. We had just welcomed in our 5th, a little boy, and we were kneeling around our table praying and giving thanks for the arrival of this son, as if our family is complete now. Both of Marie and I had discussed this is probably it. All of her deliveries were cesarean section.
Oh,
And so it was pushing the limit. And we felt like that's probably all we're going to do. And then a little revelatory experience in my mind, the little voice said, "Don't forget about me." And so I shared that with Marie, and we worked on that, and a 3rd little girl came.
that's wonderful. And so, any particular fun stories, or how did the Papa family spend their time together?
Oh, gee. So we've been fortunate to live out in the country also, the edge of town in the country. So always had some critters and some pets and some gardens and that. And we used to cut wood together. And when we lived in Willows, we were still in I think the 20-80% fundraising for chapel construction. And so we cut a lot of firewood. So often when we were cutting wood for the chapel fundraising, I would go on my own with the other men from the ward, and we'd have our chainsaws running and cut lots of oak. But I decided to start trying to take my family so we could be together more often. Monday through Friday work, Saturday work on the ranch, Sunday at home, and that's about it. So we would go as a family. I'd cut the trees down, slice them up, and the little kids would roll the logs to the truck, and together we'd lift them all in and had a good time doing that. We also cut a lot of Christmas trees over the years. But I think, if there are memorable times that were so deeply satisfying, it would be when every one of our children and their spouses have been in the Celestial room with us, or in an endowment room with us in the temple, or in sealing rooms doing work for our ancestors. I can't think of anything that's more rewarding of that, other than perhaps seeing my daughters and my sons cuddle their own little ones when they're newborn, or watching them conduct their family councils now, conduct their home evenings now. All good memories from families. Family life is everything.
Yes, it is.
Everything.
Did all your children get married in the temple?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
How many grandbabies do you have?
Thanks to Marie and my daughters, 25.
That is fantastic.
We're a little heavy on the boys, but our girls are so good. They can handle them. They can handle them.
And how old is your oldest grandchild?
Let's see.
Approximately.
He is a med student now down in Texas, and he's a returned missionary from Ukraine. I believe Jacob is 25.
Mm-hmm.
And our youngest on the other end would be going on 9.
So they're right on their way. Any of them married? Do you have any great-grands?
There are 3 that are married. We have no grandchildren yet, but 5 of them have been missionaries.
That's wonderful. That is really, really terrific.
We feel very, very blessed. I know part of our Father in Heaven's plan is to give us the opportunity to experience parenthood ourselves. And I'm just so grateful for an eternal companion that makes that happen. I owe it to her.
And you mentioned that you were a teacher and a principal. How long were you in education, and how did that affect your life?
It was 31 incredible years. I can honestly say that I never woke up and didn't want to go to school during those days, even though toward the end of school administration, pretty challenging.
Yeah, I know.
In 1985, had the opportunity to come to Oroville in the principalship there. And my parents were aging, and I knew that in time it would be helpful to be close to them. So I came over here, or came to Oroville, and served there for the remainder of the time. And because we lived within our means, we were able to retire a little bit early and do the things that really matter now.
That is wonderful. So as part of the things that really matter, you've had several really time-consuming church callings. Mm-hmm. You've been a stake president. You've been a temple president. Did you also serve in a mission with your wife?
We were Bishop Storehouse missionaries
mm-hmm.
for 3 years. Here we managed the storehouse in Chico. We were also missionaries in the Hmong branch in Oroville for 3 years. So we've done that together. And then serving together in the temple presidency was an absolute highlight. Now, none of those experiences could happen without Marie being who she is. Yeah, all of those. It's choice experience. I'm just amazed at how we're able to love many more people when given the opportunity and called to do so. And our love doesn't diminish. It doesn't shrink. It magnifies, and we're able to, whether it's a class of nursery children that I had for 9 months, or members of 22 stakes who are in a temple district. The Lord calls, and we try our best. Our ability to love them and serve them grows and grows. So I can see how the Lord loves all of his children, and none less than others.
Clearly, Marie has been very important in your life, and you have very tender feelings towards her, which is wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about Marie and her personality and her likes and dislikes?
I wish you could know her and meet her. She should be here with me, so you could do that. Yeah, she's a little 5'2", very energetic, most incredible homemaker. She has had some schooling at BYU and at Chico State. She was a gymnast for a while. She is a farmer's daughter also. And so she can do anything to make things grow. And she's also a wonderful seamstress. And she's a mother who can raise 6. I'm so grateful for her homemaking skills. And she thrives on it. She likes it, loves doing so.
And if she was doing that with a beginning teacher's salary, she's a frugal woman.
Oh, you're so true. So true, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, Marie's the love of my life. Could not do anything without her that really matters.
And what callings do you have right now?
So fortunate to be, besides a ministering brother in the ward, to some really good people that I love. I am a sealer in the Sacramento Temple for 2 more Fridays. And then that sealing authority is transferred to the Feather River Temple. At home, in my home ward, I'm a ward mission leader, which I love very much. Get to interact every week with our missionaries and with the people that we're teaching. I love that.
That is great. Now, I get to say I've joined you in your golden years now that I'm retired. What are you doing with your time, and what are your favorite hobbies, and where are you spending any extra time you have after being a minister, a ward missionary leader, and a temple sealer?
You know, we're so fortunate here in the United States of America to have such a concept as retirement, as assured income. And so far, that's been sufficient for our needs. And so being a ward missionary and being interested in that takes a lot of time. And if we minister, I look after 8 families, we spend a lot of time going to them. We have grandchildren that live in the community, so we try to maximize time with them in their activities and at our house. We live on 4.5 acres. There's a lot of oak trees there in the large garden, so there's plenty to do there with them as well. Love going to their sporting events and their school activities. And the temple is a very large part of our lives. Every week, 1 or 2 days there, because we choose to and want to. I'm not much of a family history researcher digging for details, but I love to find ancestors and serve them in the temple.
Any specific stories with any of your grandkids? Humorous exchanges?
So I mentioned having our grandchildren over and working on in our garden. And, we have numbers of photographs of them in the garden with me, planting, harvesting. But when they were very young, they could bend over and put seeds in the ground much better than Grandpa's old back can bend over. In fact, I have to get down on one knee to do it now. So they were my seed planters. And we'd poke a little hole in the ground, and then we would sing a little night-night little seed song to them as they'd put the corn in or put the beans in, and then have them come out and look for the sprout, and then water them, and then harvesting. We'd bring a pretty good crew of them in, and we'd harvest the corn, and we'd husk the corn. We'd have corn husking parties around a big pile of corn husks and put it in the freezer. So it's just a total delight to have the grandchildren come over. They're growing out of that now, though, so I have very few little ones who think that's as much fun. Now I have to bait them with, we'll play ball a little bit, or we'll get a milkshake together if you'll help me cut these trees up and buck them up and split them and stack them.
But it's so good to have them grounded in making things grow, grounded in chores, grounded in helping others. That's an important component of growing up.
That is so true, and I'm happy to be truthful and honest with myself and say every one of them knows how to work and isn't afraid to, and believe in the law of the harvest. What we sow and put our time into will reap some benefits.
That is a wonderful gift to give to your grandchildren. That's beautiful.
I said years ago that I'd like all of my children and my grandchildren to be better looking than I am, more intelligent, smarter, faster, and quicker. And you know what? That's been true in every single case.
You're not a little bit biased?
That's a pretty accurate assessment, but I am very biased with them, yes.
That's wonderful. So I always ask the same last question. If you could leave any message with our viewers, what would that be?
Make sure you're on your knees or in some other private setting with your Heavenly Father every day. And make that time count. Stay close to Him. And He, through the power of His Holy Spirit, will stay close to you. And especially be thankful to Him for the Lord and Savior and our Redeemer. And His infinite atonement will bless you. Follow and live by the family, a proclamation to the world, every principle taught there. As you grow and as you are a young married yourselves, and an older married as yourselves. And I would also say, please keep your eye on now President Nelson and the other apostles and prophets of God. Yes, life gets worrisome, but we're going to be okay. We may not like a lot of things that are happening around us. We may not care much for our governmental leaders or the increase of crime, but if we keep our eyes on our beloved, anointed prophets and apostles and hearken to them and live by them, we'll be okay. We'll be happy. We'll be able to thrive and accomplish all we need to do
Thank you, Brother Papa. It has been delightful to get to know you a little bit better.
It's my pleasure. I don't have much to entertain people with and not too much exciting going on in life, but maybe it'll be worth something to somebody.
You have found the path to happiness, and that's a gift.
That is true. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.